he was very, very good at this, at writing it all up. So it was a very interesting event.
O'Neill explained his scenario, this bootstrapping scenario, in The High Frontier. What did the Commission report say?
The Commission report was an agenda. This is what we had been asked to produce, and we produced an agenda that would take the United States in a series of planned steps out into space with a number of space stations. Not the space station. If I ever hear the space station again, I tell you, it is the worst thing. We need several space stations. We don't need them as sophisticated and as big as the very large space station we're in the process of building at the present time. We need space stations which will enable us to change out. We go from Earth to the space station, we change onto another vehicle, we go from there to the moon, and on the moon we settle the moon this time. We develop a colony, if you wish, but certainly a settlement in which we learn how to mine the lunar material, how to use lunar material to build large structures out in space, because we live in the bottom, as Jerry O'Neill is very fond of saying, we live in the bottom of a 4,000-mile gravity well, and the moon sits on the top. It is 22 times cheaper to launch material from the moon than it is from the Earth. So quite obviously, we should use it, and we will use it. Somebody wisely said one time that if God had intended humankind to go into space, he would have given them a moon in their backyard. We have one in our backyard. We must use it, and we've got to learn how to do that. And when we have done that, and when we have learned how to build large structures in space, we will build the interplanetary spaceships out there. They will never come to Earth. We will always go out there, get onto the spaceship, and fly to Mars. That is when we will go to Mars. We will also develop a refueling station on Phobos, a Martian moon, because it takes very limited energy to get out there. As a matter of fact, it takes no more energy than going to the moon. Land on Phobos, you don't have to use your engines to get down into the Martian atmosphere and slow yourself up. You can dock with Phobos, you change out again into another spacecraft, and you go from there to the asteroid belt. Now, the asteroid belt is a long way, but once you're there, you've got it.
Where's the money, where's the industry, what's the payoff in all the intervening steps between here and those goals?
Well, of course, it is assumed that the very first thing we do is we go in to learn how to live and work in low Earth orbit, close to the surface of the Earth, maybe 300 miles out, where we live and work in space stations. We manufacture new things in space stations which we cannot manufacture on Earth because of the gravity. And so we will then be in a zero-gravity situation, and we will devise and manufacture new drugs which will be of incredible value. We know what these drugs can do. We know that they will save millions of lives down here on Earth. We can't make them here because we can't mix the immixable. Out there, you can mix anything. And that is a big issue for the scientists are looking at as to what sort of things. And we'll make new crystals for, which will allow us to develop new technologies which we badly need, and it goes on and on.
Probably the largest polluter or dirty industry now, I expect on Earth, is electrical power generation. Explain the Commission report scenario on how to generate electricity without burning fossil fuels or using nuclear power on Earth.
Well, we looked again at the whole solar-powered satellite issue. This had been a suggestion by Peter Glaser from Arthur D. Little Corporation in Boston in 1969, and he said that we had to learn how to really utilize the sun and the energy from the sun, because at the present time we use about 2%. The rest of it just blows right by the Earth. And that if we could learn by going out into space to build solar cells out there, huge arrays of solar cells that would capture a large part of this, we would have no requirement for electricity generation on Earth. We could simply beam this power back down from space by microwaves. Well, this was examined very closely, and in 1976, excuse me, there was a summer session put on by NASA at which they invited many very well-known scientists to come and review these whole questions, and it was found to be perfectly feasible. However, in 1978, under the Carter administration, the National Academy of Sciences was asked to look at this issue, and for whatever reason they came up with a totally different answer, in which they basically said that it was too expensive, it couldn't be done without massive pollution of its own due to rocket launches. We'd need to launch at least one huge great rocket every day for 40 years to be able to produce the large number of solar-powered satellites, and all of this, totally avoiding the real issue. And the real issue was that we should go and use the moon material. We'd already been through that. However, it was much easier to shut down the concept in political terms by saying it couldn't be done because we would need too many rocket launches, and therefore shut it down, rather than say, hey, we should learn how to go and live and work on the moon and get that material out really fast and start a whole new program. The Carter administration was not going to buy a new program, and it died right then. In Washington, solar-powered satellites have been dead ever since. You just don't mention them.